Welcome back. This video is going to introduce you to the microscopes that we are using in the microbiology lab, and these are different from some of the other microscopes that are available at Merced College. And a few years ago, the college made a very large investment in some Zeiss microscopes, which are actually really good in terms of the optics and the lenses. So we would appreciate it if everyone can make sure to try and maintain their microscopes and clean them off and just keep everything in working order. And if you do run into some problems, please don't hesitate to notify your instructor about the problems that you're having. So again, we want to make sure that your microscope is covered up with the bag to indicate that the previous person actually did wipe it down. And we'll take off our nice little cover here, and what we've been told with these is that we should be wiping down our microscopes with a little bit of ethanol. And again, you just want to take your paper towel here and go ahead and wipe down the knobs that we have here. Those are what people are going to be touching. The power cord over here, and this little guy over here. You can also wipe down around the edges where people might be gripping this, but again, we do not want to wipe with this kind of paper on our lenses, because that can scratch the lenses. And so just to show you some of the different parts here, the first thing you want to do is come into the back and plug this little guy in over here. And I'm going to take this and swing it over to the other side and show you a little tour of the different parts to the microscope. So we do have a power knob over here, and you can see that it lights up there. And just to show you the intensity of the light, as you increase it, you will see more and more coming up on the sides. And just to show you, the light is coming out from the bottom there, and so if we turn this little guy down, you can see it gets a little bit darker there, and you work your way up. One thing to keep in mind is when we are using these microscopes, if you're starting out with the lowest power objective here that we'll get to in a minute, you're going to have a huge amount of light that's being collected there. So you want to make sure that you start out with your light turned down, unless you like having a headache. And that's something that happens quite often with microscopes if you're not using them properly. Hopefully, the previous person who used the microscope lowered their stage, and we can see that in this case it was not lowered. And the other thing that we want is to actually have the objective with the red band on it dialed into place. And the reason for that is when you move the stage up, it actually stops right there. So there is no chance that the stage is going to run into that objective, so you don't have to worry about it scratching. With some of these other lenses, the stage actually can run in. So it's just sort of polite that when you are putting your microscope away, to lower the stage and then set that back so that it's ready for the next person to use. Some of the parts are light is coming from down below here, and it is basically passing through a condenser lens that is underneath this little stage right here, and that actually is not doing any sort of magnification. What this is doing here is it's actually going to be used to condense that light into a beam of light that's going to hit your specimen that we place on top of the stage here. So the light is being condensed in here, and then if you look closely underneath here, let's see if I can get it a little bit closer here, you can see that there are some numbers right here. And this is where you can actually adjust what's known as the iris diaphragm. And the iris diaphragm is like the iris in your eyes that open and close to allow more or less light in there. And this thing should be adjusted for use with the different objective lenses that we have above our stage right here. And so if you look closely on this one, you can see it says 10x. And then over here, if you look closely at that, you can also see the 10x. So when you're using your microscope and you're using those objectives there, you want to make sure that you set this so that you actually are using the right setting for your iris diaphragm. Okay, that light is going to go up here through our stage. And this is where we put a slide. So I just grabbed an E slide here, and you just take this thing, slide it out there. And you can use this little lever right there if you want to, but oftentimes we just insert the slide right there, and this is going to hold it in place. And if you look at this, and I'm going to center this and show you those knobs in a second, you can see that the light is actually coming through there, and it's being condensed, and then it's hitting your specimen right there. And if I open the iris diaphragm, you can see a lot more light is coming in when this is set at the 100x on the opposite side there and past it. So again, you want to make sure that you turn this down so that you don't have too much light that's going to be coming up, because that can give you a headache right here. All right, now that light is going to go through your specimen, and it's going to enter this barrel of the objective right here, and there's a little lens right there towards the end of this. This is known as the objective lens because it's next to your object right there, your specimen that is on your stage. And then this is going to refract some of that light and cause an increase in the apparent size of your image. That light is going to travel up through this little barrel right here, and it's going to get bent by a mirror or a prism, and that's going to go up through this little guy right here in the head of the microscope, where we actually have the eyepiece that has two ocular lenses inside of it. So effectively, when we look at this objective lens is going to be magnifying the image of your specimen, and then these guys are going to be magnifying the image of your specimen. So effectively what you have is two magnifications that are going on with this, and we can calculate the total magnification is the product of the magnification due to either, or I should say both, of the lenses that are being used. So here we've got a lens in place that will magnify things 4 times. And then up here in the eyepiece, we have another lens that's going to magnify our image 10 times. So the product of that, 4 times 10, with both of these lenses in place, that's going to magnify the image of your specimen 40 times. So something is going to appear 40 times larger than it is. When it comes to the objective, notice it's binocular. There are 2 of them. Most of us have 2 functional eyes that we can use, and it's highly recommended that you don't squint one eye when you're doing this process. You want to make sure that you use both eyes. Notice also, we can change the width of these. So these are made to fit for pretty much anybody who is out there. And if your eyes are further apart than this, we will have to see what kind of accommodation can be made for you. The other thing that you can do is, if you look at this, we can actually change this or rotate it around, and that will actually change the focus. So both of the oculars or eyepieces have the ability to be independently dialed or focused. So you can focus with one eye, and if you have another eye that isn't focusing as well, you can rotate this little dial around and cause it to come into focus for both of your eyes there. It's important to note also, if you wear glasses, you should not take off your glasses while you're using your microscope, because those glasses, when you take them on and off, your eyes are refocusing. And the more times your eyes are refocusing, the more likely you are to end up with a headache there. So if you do wear glasses, you should keep them on all the time when you're using your microscope. It should be comfortable to use your microscope and not uncomfortable when you're using it. Okay, so we can take a look at this. We've seen all of the optics there, but the other thing that we can take a look at is how do I move some of these things around? And on this side, we've got a couple of knobs that are built into our scopes here. These little guys, let's see if we can get them a little bit closer here. Two knobs that are on the side right here, those are what's known as the stage control knobs. And if you look at that, you can see this top one is moving our slide forward and backward, and this little guy right here is going to be moving it left to right. So now we've got an X and a Y plane, and there is one other thing that's built into it, and that's these two little knobs over here that are our focus knobs, and these are going to have the effect of moving your stage up and down. So if you think about when you're using a magnifying glass, do you move the object? Because that's what we have here. We have an object right there. And instead of moving our magnifying glass up and down, what we're doing is we're actually moving the object up and down by using this knob here. This big outer knob right here is what's known as the coarse focus, because you can see it's moving that stage in very, very large amounts. So it's bringing it into coarse focus. And then the smaller knob that we have here, and if we look on this side, you can see we've actually got a bigger version of those guys, so you can use it left-handed or right-handed. Well, this one, when we turn it, you actually don't see the stage moving, but it is moving. It's just moving in smaller increments. And so we've got a coarse focus knob and a fine focus knob. Both of them are going to move the stage up and down, but the coarse focus moves it down in gross movements, where the fine focus is just going to make these fine little movements so that you can bring your specimen truly into focus. When you are finished using your specimens on this thing, you do want to make sure again that you clean everything off and that you return it to the way you had it. So again, we want to make sure that we lower our stage all the way down, and we want to make sure that this 4X objective is dialed into place. And the last thing I wanted to show you here is this process of rotating these objective lenses around. They are on what's known as the revolving nose piece here, and rather than grabbing onto this thing and moving it by touching the barrel of the objective lens, just like with a plug going into a wall, we don't want you to be moving this around because that can result in things breaking. Try and only move it by using your fingers on this little ring right here. So you can see they move around, and if you listen, you can hear it click. When it's clicked into place, you're going to get a good view of your specimen, and you should not have to worry about getting an off-center view. And I'll show you, hopefully, if I can get this to work by looking through the camera here. So here we can see our E-slide that has been brought into focus, and I apologize, I'm holding my video camera up against the microscope here, so things are going to move around a little bit. We can move it left and right with our stage control knobs over here. We can move it forward and backward. And just to show you the coarse focus, bring it into focus with the coarse where it moves it a lot, and then just use your fine focus to get the fine details there by moving your slide up and down just a small bit. You really should not have to use your coarse focus more than a complete revolution right there. Again, I'll show you with the light. We can adjust our diaphragm to make it really bright or to make it a little bit darker, and it's not going to be emphasized as much because the video camera is adjusting for the light here. But just to show you, when we do change our objective that I showed you in the last one, this is 40 times total magnification using the 4X objective with the 10X ocular lenses here. I'm going to rotate, and now we're looking at this specimen with the 10x objective. So our total magnification is 100 times. And if you look, you can see it's mostly in focus here. So we really don't need to use our coarse focus knob, and we can switch from the coarse focus to our fine focus. And so I'm just going to turn that and bring it into focus. And there you can see this is our object that is actually being magnified 100 times for the normal specimen size. And that begs the question, what do you think is going to happen when we use the 40x objective? We are going to be magnifying it even more. So think about what effect that's going to have on our specimen in terms of the overall picture there. And just so you can see, this is our specimen that we're using right here. This is our standard kind of E-slide that we use. And so what we really hope that you're going to be able to do with this first lab here is just start using the microscope and get familiar with the different parts and play around with it. And the first exercise, you're going to be looking at your E-slide specimen and testing out the different parts. And then we're going to ask you to get 2 different slides and to start looking at, or to get 1 slide and then to look at your specimen there and see if you can bring it into focus, and also decide on which kind of objective to use to get you a good magnification when you are looking through the ocular lenses there.